God provides where he guides. So if you feel like God is guiding you to add or build it to your family, just trust. It's been our experience that the money follows. But if you think of it as an investment, just like you would your business or just like you would your portfolio, then you've got to think about being good stewards of that investment.
Hey everybody, in today's episode, we're talking kids. We're talking all about them babies. We're gonna talk about kids today and how you can build a life you love and how your kids can come right along with you. Crystal and I have done that. I don't know if you would say successfully or not, but
that's yet to be determined.
We have 4 kids and they're all still alive. So to some degree, we have been successful. And they have been a part of our journey of building this life and telling this story from, the very beginning. Yeah. We moved here from South Louisiana to here in New England 16 years ago. No, not 16 years
17.
ago. 13 years ago. Oh. 13 years ago. Yeah, that's right. Math is tricky sometimes. But we moved here when we had 2 kids. We added 2 since living here. So we have 4 in total. And we've got pictures of our oldest son riding in a booster seat in the Penske truck, right? The moving truck when we moved here. And now that same son is driving church stuff to and from storage in his own truck, right? So it's like at every turn, in every season, our kids have been a part of it.
And really, even before we moved here, the reason I was thinking 17 years is because when he was a baby, we were visiting Boston as tourists, and he was thinking about moving here in the stroller, walking along. So yeah, our kids have been around through the whole thing. Filming of this episode, 17, 15, 12, and 8. 3 boys and a princess at the end who is going to give us a run for her money.
She's our honey badger, but we love her. We love the honey badger. She's awesome. But yeah, so we want to talk about kids today. Talk about parenting and how parenting and building the life that you love, how those 2 things go together. They're not either or, they're both and.
That's right.
Yeah.
They can coexist in the same time. But before we jump into all of the things that we want to help people kind of get, why don't we start with our very best parenting moments that we have. Tyler, you've had some very quality parenting moments. But let's just give ourselves a pound on the back. Yeah. Your best parenting moment.
Well, I feel like I did have some time to think about this, and I thought about my best parenting moment. It's not really just one moment. It's been a lifetime of moments where I have successfully brainwashed all of my children to be diehard LSU Tiger fans. I remember when our kids were little, we would spend money we didn't have to go on trips we didn't need to go on, to watch football games that didn't matter. We would bring them from Boston to Baton Rouge to go watch home games in Tiger Stadium. Now, I'll never forget one time we were traveling through the Atlanta airport. You remember this? And our oldest son was 4 or 5, maybe. He was very little. We were catching one of those connecting situations through Atlanta, which is always challenging. And he goes in and he said, "Daddy, I got to use the bathroom." And I'm panic mode because I'm a panic traveler. That's kind of my flow. And he says, "I got to go to the bathroom." I'm like, so we really don't have time. He goes, "Dad, don't worry. 2 poops, 1 toot, and we're out of here." And I will never forget him saying those words to me on our way to watch an LSU football game. Go Tigers.
He's going to be so grateful that you shared that story.
He was 4.
It's true. He was really cute. It's true. Yep. Okay, so my best parenting moment, which, Tyler may, and some of you listening may judge me and put this in the worst parenting category.
People
but
will definitely judge you.
I really think this is a top shelf mom moment.
Get it, Mom. Tell us.
So we have a rule in our family: no Snapchat, no social media until 9th grade, and that's if you are crushing it in your grades. Yeah. You've understood authority, that this is my house, not your house. Our. Right. But I'm the boss, you're not the boss. And once we're kind of seeing, how you're rolling in those areas, then you might get Snapchat freshman year of high school. Well, our son, when he was in 8th grade, he decided that he was going to sneak around and have Snapchat before he was supposed to have it. So we took it from him. He lost his cell phone for the whole summer. And we're having a great summer. He's doing he's crushing it. He's doing a great job earning that phone back. And halfway, we get to the end of the summer, about to give his phone back to him. And you and I were laying in bed, I'll never forget. And I hear his phone, which was being held in your nightstand, go skoo-doo-doo-doo. Well, it wasn't a Nextel, whatever sound the iPhones make.
That was interesting.
And that was like from 20 years ago. And so his phone goes off, and you look at it and you say, why is he getting a notification from Snapchat?
It was weird.
And I was like, I don't know. So I walk upstairs he's on the 3rd floor. I walk upstairs to where he's sleeping.
In the attic.
Well, he wasn't in the attic. He had a bedroom. And so I go upstairs and I flip on the light and I'm like, help me understand why your phone is going off on Snapchat. And Tyler had looked. He had re-downloaded the app on the exact same day he got busted and deleted it in front of us. So I was hot. So I go in, I flip on his light. I'm like, son, help me understand why Snapchat is doing notifications. And that child did not have enough respect to lift his head off the pillow. He kept his face in the pillow, and I hear him all muffled, because I'm not a loser.
Bold.
And okay, best parenting moment.
That's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out.
I take that child by the ear. He's almost 15 at this point. I take, and by the way, our child is, both of our older boys are 6'3". So they are towering above me at this point.
Big boys.
So I grab him by the ear and I'm like, oh, I'm going to show you what it feels like to be a loser. And I drag him. I mean, I let him walk, but I'm dragging him down the stairs. I take him to our room, and I'm hot. And I'm like, you're going to sleep on the floor tonight. And he goes and he's like, whatever. He's being all attitudinal. And I'm like, he goes to grab a blanket. And I'm like, no, you don't get a blanket. In fact, you're going to sleep on the windowsill right here. We had like a ledge, like, not like where he would fall off the window or anything, but like we had like a ledge, like just big enough for his body. And he slept on that windowsill for 2 nights in a row. I threatened him it was going to be for a month, but I got soft. But, I think that's my best parenting moment, because...
Interesting. It's an interesting take.
Here's why.
Let's hear the why.
It could have been worse. I could have lost my temper, and I didn't. But I made it very firm that you are not in charge in this house. And while you're under my roof and I pay the bills, if you can't learn authority, you're going to be in trouble in life, buddy. So it's not necessarily much about Snapchat as it is.
True.
You have to be a person under authority. And now it's something 3 years later we laugh about. He remembers, and he'll tell his grandkids about, how awesome his mother was.
Yeah, I can feel the parents judging you right now.
It's okay. When they get a freshman in high school, they'll understand.
We said we might ruffle some feathers, so...
You've got to hear this.
You've got to hear it.
So what we want to do in this episode is, we know that having kids, or the thought of having kids, can get especially overwhelming, especially if you're goal oriented like we are. You like to build stuff. You like to take on risks, maybe with your career. You've got, promotions you're thinking about, and you're thinking, man, how am I going to add kids to this mix? Or maybe you're listening today and you're like, I've got more kids than I can handle. I truly don't know what I was thinking. Or perhaps you're on the verge of parenting. You're struggling getting pregnant. You thinking, maybe this isn't going to happen for me. Listen, we think there's going to be something for everybody in here. There's data out there somewhere that we Googled before we wrote kind of this outline. In recent years, I'm going to read it. In recent years, there has been a trend of people in America delaying parenthood. According to data from the CDC, the birth rate among women aged 15 through 44 in the U.S. reached a record low in 2020 with only 55.8 births per 1,000 women. How they ever figure out these numbers, I don't know. But this continues to reflect a decline in birth rate and suggests that a significant percentage of people are delaying or foregoing parenthood altogether. And I was in New York City a few weeks ago, and we were in this cute little boutique, and there's like these bracelets that are like hashtag dinks. Have you seen these? And it's like double income, no kids. It's like the ideal. If you go on TikTok, YouTube, it's like this whole lifestyle. Like I ain't got no kids. I ain't got nothing weighing me down. And listen, This episode is not about trying to get you to want to have kids or
have a bunch
of kids. Right. Listen, we want you to live a life that you love, and so that may look different
build a family that you want.
That's right. It may look different, but what we do want to do in this episode is, if you're worried, you're overwhelmed, whatever it is, we don't want you to see your kids as limitations from taking on more and doing more and building that vision that you can see. We believe that the one thing that you've got to hear in this episode is that kids are your legacy. They are not a limitation.
So good. Mic drop.
Mic drop.
That is so true. Legacy and not limitations. And that's what we want this episode to be for you. We want to help you reframe the way that you think about children, the way that you think about parenting, the way you think about your world as a professional and your world as a parent, and how you can really marry the two of those, and they don't have to be separate things. And today we're going to tell you how to reframe that mindset so that you can do that properly. But before we dive in, do us a favor. If you find anything in this podcast that speaks to you, hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend, rate it, review it. Just trust us. Sharing not only supports this podcast, but it might just be the encouragement that someone else needs today. All right, so the first fact, Crystal, that we're going to reframe.
We've got 3 facts for you today.
The first one that we're going to reframe is that kids are expensive. Notice we're saying fact, right? These are not ideas. This is not maybes. There's no speculation in these statements.
Facts.
This is bona fide, factual information. Kids are expensive. And what we want to help you in reframing that fact with is not kids are expensive. Kids are an investment. Kids are an investment.
It's true. I mean, they are expensive. There's no getting around it. There's the older they get, the more expensive they get. You think you need a lot when they're first born. Actually, I'm just telling you right now, that is when you need to spend as little as possible. All they need is a diaper and a blanket and a bottle. That's it. They don't need all that fancy gear that you think that you need, because you need to be saving your dollars for when they're wanting to play club lacrosse and gymnastics and dance, and you want them to be with friends and private school or public school or whatever. It all costs a lot of money.
That's right.
But we've seen it like,
reframed.
Hey, we've reframed it. Yeah, it's expensive. And a lot of times people stop having kids because they're like, I don't know if I can afford that next kid. They may want another child. They may want to add to their family, but they're like, I can't afford to do that. Yeah. Let us help you defy your limitation right there and go after that kid. Because what we've learned is that the money follows. The money will follow. When you step kind of and take that decision, we say it like this in the church world, that God provides where he guides. So if you feel like God is guiding you to add or build it to your family, just trust. It's been our experience that the money follows. But if you think of it as an investment, just like you would your business or just like you would your portfolio, then you've got to think about being good stewards of that investment. So we wrote some things. Tyler, why don't you kind of tell, what have we had to do to pay for these very expensive investments that live in our home?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is you have to begin to think creatively as a parent. The way that it worked for your parents when you were a child, or the way that you've seen it work for other parents and their children, it does not mean that that's the way that it has to or is going to work for you and your family. You have to think creatively. You have to think innovatively, right? Like outside of the normal streams of life and streams of income. Since we're talking about finances, how can we open up some more streams of income into this house so that we can invest in our kids the way that we need to? We've thought creatively about some of those things. We've had to change the way that we live. There have been seasons where we haven't drank as much Starbucks. There have been seasons where we've done staycations. There have been seasons where the town park was all the fun that we needed. There was a season where throwing sticks in the Charles River from Cambridge, Massachusetts, from Harvard. When we remember that?
Yeah, I just started.
What are we going to do with these kids? Well, we ain't got no money, but there's a river and there's a bunch of sticks.
Some sticks.
And little boys love throwing sticks at stuff. So we went through sticks in the river for literally 6 hours. You got to change the way you think about things.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we put our house on Airbnb, and your parents had a beach house in Plymouth that they would let us go stay at, and for a month at a time, we found out in the town that we lived in here in Mass that somebody would pay us $10,000 for 30 days while they were renovating their house. Well, boy, I'll tell you, back then, $10,000, that was helping us start our businesses, keeping food on the table. We had to just think creatively, but also we had to be willing to do what other people wouldn't do, right? So you there's this mindset that I think people take on, like everything should fit perfectly, nice and neat between 9 and 5, and I should have everything I want and have disposable income. But you can't have it all. There's gonna be a sacrifice and a cost to things. But these kids of ours aren't limitations. They are our legacy. You know, Proverbs 13:22, we think, you and I disagreed about where this was in the Bible.
It's confirmed. No, it's confirmed.
Proverbs 13:22.
Yeah,
what does it say? This is this is one of your favorite verses.
What's a little bit of a paraphrase. I'm not going to quote it directly because it's not the way that my brain works. But Proverbs, the wisdom of Proverbs says that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. That's 2 generations of inheritance. And that is the definition of a good man, not even a great man, a great woman, a great person, right? And so if you're gonna be a good man, a good person, that means that you be building a life now that your grandchildren benefit from down the road. And honestly, that only works. That's only happened for us because we have been committed to working our butts off and finding ways to make the stuff we do have work for us too. Everything that we see in our life today, I've said it like this before, we found it at the intersection of Hard Work Way and Great Grace Boulevard. Like right there at the intersection. Because with our hard work and the great grace of God, that's where those points intersect, that's where you find the life. That's where kids stop being expensive, they start being an investment.
And it's true. Like you do have boundaries that you have to work in. Your budget may tell you, I can't afford another kid right now. But don't let that plateau you where you can never have another kid. Mm-hmm. Start thinking creatively now. Yep. Take on more work so that you can enjoy another child later. Change your lifestyle now so that you can make room for that child. And I'll tell you, none of these things that we did, driving back and forth to Plymouth, we've slept on air mattresses while
beans and rice,
eating beans and rice. Yep. None of it is what we wanted to do. But I'll tell you something. Kids make you do them and they make you better for it. Mm-hmm. And I'll just say, we may not have had all the luxury items and going and being able to keep up with the Joneses, but what we do have are these incredible kids that are going to carry our legacy on into the future.
That's good. And just before we go to fact number 2, I want to address a possible misconception, because you might be thinking like, man, that's easy for you to say from your side of the microphone, Tyler, right? Like that's an easy thought to think. That's an easy picture to paint. But don't look at the life that we are living and the life that we've built and say it's easy to say. We're living this life because we've done things that most people aren't willing to do. We see what we see because we have been willing to participate and willing to go places and do things that most people don't ever. And so when you decide that I want to look at my kids not as expenses that I have to calculate for on a spreadsheet, but an investment that's going to help us build this life, and they're going to come along at every journey, at every part of the journey with us. Man, you gotta be willing to pay that price and make that investment.
Yeah, not everybody has equal access to the same resources, but everyone does have an equal opportunity to work and make sacrifices.
That's good.
And all of us can do that to make room for kids if you want them in your life. All right, good. So first fact that we're helping you reframe is that kids are expensive, but they are an investment. Right. Second fact that we want to just acknowledge is that kids are exhausting. It is real talk. Every parent knows it. Every parent is probably falling asleep in this podcast right now because you were up late or some kid snuck into your bed uninvited last night and tossed and turned and pushed you out of your own bed. Yeah. But let us help you reframe this.
Kids don't have to exhaust you. Kids can energize you.
Yes, they can be an energy that you didn't even know that you need because they require energy that you didn't know you needed.
Yeah.
Whether that's from if you're in the early stages, or let's say you're pregnant right now. I know when I was pregnant, I never slept. Those last kind of 3 months of pregnancy, long sleepless nights prepare you for just more long sleepless nights.
I always slept great in the last 3 months of her pregnancy.
Yes,
because
you did.
Somebody has to be rested,
Yeah,
it's important.
Yes, you did. We're not going to go there. Long sleepless nights in the early stages to, waiting up late until they get home, or you're driving across the world for more soccer games and lacrosse games and football games and cheerleading games to, your parents have said they lose sleep just thinking about us and their grandkids. And it never kind of stops. Kids are exhausting, but they will give you a new energy that you didn't know that you have.
Yeah, and the advice here is let kids be what set the bar for the energy level that you need. That they let them set the standard of hey, this is the season that I'm in. We've got young kids. That means that we need energy for long nights. As your kids get older, the days get longer, so you need energy for longer days. And that's, again, hard work's a big part of it. God's grace is a big part of it. And hey, thank God for caffeine. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you just gotta just Jesus and a good latte in the afternoon will carry you through the rest of the day.
Do you know what I'm sitting here thinking about?
I hope you tell us, because that would be great for this podcast.
I'm thinking back to our first baby who was sleeping with us, and then he vomited all on my side of the bed. And I remember trying to wake you up.
This is an unverified story, by the way.
No, this is absolutely true. I remember trying to wake you up, and you were so mad that you were being woke up because I needed to change the sheets because my bed was covered in baby vomit. And so I was like, Tyler, wake up. And you were like, what could you possibly want? And it was like 3 a.m. and I was like, I want to change our sheets because it is covered in vomit right now. Do you remember that?
I don't.
Oh,
I was.
Convenient.
Anyway, I don't remember it. I sleep changed the sheets because we woke up the next day and I was chipper chicken. I was like, hey, great night. How's everything? Everybody good? She's like, you don't remember. I was like, no, I don't.
I could have cut you with my eyes. All right. So for all the young parents out there listening who are living that world right now, there's a few principles here that we want to help kind of just impart to you that we've learned that you have to do. You've got to have these boundaries in place to conserve the little energy that you've got left in your home right now. All right, so first thing we want to just impart to you, give you, this is a freebie. Parents, you've got to set the schedules in your home.
Who sets the schedules?
Parents.
Not who?
Not the kids. I'm talking to the parents right now.
Okay, the parents are listening to this podcast.
If you want to conserve your energy, then parents, you've got to be the one that set the schedules, not your kids. And I'm talking from sleep to sports. And every stage of life, parents have to be the gatekeepers of the schedules.
Yeah, the Bible says, and I don't remember the address because again, that's not my gifting, but it says that you should train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. That training starts in infancy. I believe that.
It's true.
And you teach your kid how to sleep. Now there's health things and there's like teething and all of that just it's natural and it happens. But you are always so great at training our babies even to operate on our schedule, not us to be dictated to by their schedule.
Yeah, it's so true. You have to start that young because their schedules will try to take over the household when they're older, and before you know it, your marriage is on the back burner because of club sports. Like that's like the world we're living right now. And as our kids have come up through grade school, we've just had to set boundaries of we're not going to do every sport in every season. We physically cannot be in all of these places and stay healthy.
And stay connected to community, whether that's church community or family community or country club community, whatever your community is, you can't do it all.
So that's principle number 1. If you want to conserve your energy, start setting a schedule now that you are in control of, not your kids, whatever that looks like. Even little things like when we would go out to eat at a restaurant, I remember like, I want my kid to learn to sit and learn patience, that you're not just going to be entertained the whole time out. I'm not just going to throw an iPad in your face. And there's a natural rhythm to life. We have to wait on people. You don't just get entertained every second of your life. And so just teaching our kids, we're going to sit here, we're going to act like humans, and we're going to wait politely on the waitress to feed our food. It's learning as a parent. And I think that kind of comes to principle number 2 parents need to learn.
Yeah, I mean, if you want kids that sit at a table, whether it's your table or a restaurant table or someone else's table, that do not have to be entertained by an iPad or a phone, then put your own phone up, right?
True.
Like you have to model that for your kids. Same like with your own emotional health and dealing with traumas or things that happened in your childhood, right? Like do the work to take care of that now so that you don't then model those same unhealthy behaviors for your kids. Because you want to talk about an energy drain, like emotional, well, what's the word? Unhealthiness, yes. Right? That'll drain you. And then if that's draining you, it's also draining your family. And there's no energy. And that is the moment where everything becomes exhausting.
Let me tell you something. For those of you who don't have kids, let me just tell you something right now. There is nothing more triggering to your childhood trauma than raising kids.
Dang.
Because you, at every Christmas with your kids, you will start thinking back to your own Christmases from when you were kids, and things that you've repressed and you hadn't seen and you hadn't thought about in decades, they just surface. Wow. And so I'm telling you right now, the best thing you can do before you have kids is get into a therapy office. Like start working on your emotional health now, because when that 8-year-old kid of yours starts mouthing off to you, you will go back to that place where you were mouthing off to your parent and something bad happened. And you will either shut down or you will begin to repeat negative behaviors that carry on to future generations. Because remember, kids are not your limitations, they're your legacy. That's whether you're creating a good legacy or a bad legacy, you're creating one. And so
it's not too late. If you have kids already, it's not too late.
It's not too late, but it takes some work. And so, if your kids are setting the tone, the emotional tone in your home here, and you're constantly reacting to it instead of responding in a way that you want your kids to model what you're doing, then the emotional energy, it's just going to get toxic and more hostile in your home. And it sucks the energy out from the whole room, from the whole family. Yeah. So that's principle number 2 is parents must properly model emotional health.
That's right. And then the third one here, parents, discipline is a must. It's not a good idea. It's not if you feel like it. It's not when you get around to it. You've got to have lines drawn and boundaries set, not only for your life and your family and your home, but for your kids and the interaction that you have with them as parent to child. No has to mean no, right? We're not going to tell you the right way to discipline. Again,
there's so many great ways.
Have a bunch of kids, have no kids, build your family the way you want to build it. Discipline your child the way that you want to discipline them, but please don't remove discipline from the home. Reasoning is not a replacement for discipline. You cannot do that with kids. And well, let me say it like this. That is a recipe for exhaustion. That is the formula to live your life with little kids, medium kids, and big kids, to be exhausted all day, every day, all night, every night. Would you agree?
Kids need boundaries because adults need boundaries.
It's good.
And if you don't learn how to set boundaries and to respect authority as a kid, you will never do it as an adult. Mm-hmm. And we all know people who don't follow the law, who don't respect authority, who don't have boundaries in their own life. It's because those things were not taught to them as kids. So no has to mean no, whether it's about throwing a tantrum in the grocery store or getting on Snapchat. You have to start those things early.
And what are some of the other boundaries, Crystal, that parents need to put in place, not just in regards to discipline, but when it comes to their relationship?
Yeah, like conserving your energy in your marriage. I think first and foremost is the order in the home is so important. Your marriage or your partnership or your significant other, you guys started first before the kids came along. And I know that you may be listening, and there's blended families and there's remarriages and all of those things, but the order is nonetheless important. That the marriage, if you don't respect the partnership, if you don't respect that relationship, and let the kids start taking control and kind of reigning in the home, it will break you down eventually. And so there's been little things like we were saying about setting the schedules, but for us, like, we protect our bed. Like, I co-slept with our kids when they were like nursing and really little, but once they were done nursing, it was out. You in your bed. Like, we were sleep training that because you've got to protect your sex life. It's so important. If that intimacy is degraded because you go through 6 years of little kids in your bed, we counsel couples all the time who look up and you're like, we don't have a relationship anymore because parenting kind of screwed that up. And I get why there are dinks out there who are like, I ain't adding babies to this. My life is so great right now. Why would I do this? But I promise you, if you will do things in a way that create and maintain order in your home and in your marriage and in your sex life, it doesn't have to wreak havoc. You may have to make some changes and those sorts of things.
Yeah, and from our perspective, we have a 2-parent household, and so we have a lot of perspective from that. But honestly, a lot of these principles that we've learned, that we've shared with you, we actually learned from a single parent. Our sweet friend Charlene, she was doing it all on her own, and she would tell us, she'd be like, man, if I don't have these boundaries, and if my boy, he's not, so it's regardless of what perspective you're parenting from, the principles apply.
That's right.
And the kids, they are exhausting, but let them energize you. That's a great.
That's right. All right. So fact number 1, things that we're helping you reframe. Fact number 1, our kids are expensive, but they can also be your investment. See them as an investment, not just as an expense. Fact number 2, kids are exhausting. There's no way around that. It will push you to breaking points and energy levels you didn't know you had. But think about it, instead of it being exhausting, think of it as they will energize you. And then fact number 3, Tyler, give the people fact number 3 about kids, but let's help you reframe this.
Yeah, third fact, kids are encumbering. Kids are encumbering. Encumbering is a big word. It means to restrict or burden in such a way that free action or movement is difficult. It's a big word. It means to restrict or burden, and it also starts with an E, which is important for the way that my brain works. Everything has to have an alliterative sort of bent to it. So kids are encumbering. That's a fact. Restrictive burden is weight to bear, this responsibility. There's all those things. We want to reframe that fact by helping you understand the kids are encumbering, but they are also your opportunity. Kids are your opportunity.
Yeah, you got to see everything in life as a season, right? So when you start having kids or you've got little kids, it's not the same season as when you were a dink and you could travel and you could go and do whatever it is you wanted to do. But you're in a new season, and it's not necessarily a bad season. Some people love winter and other people hate winter. Some people love summer and other people can't wait till fall is here. So at the end of the day, seasons aren't bad. They're just different. And I would encourage people who feel like your kid is an encumbrance to reframe the way you're thinking, that it's not an encumbrance. This is not a child that's a limitation that's weighing you down.
Right.
This is an opportunity, a new season to embrace a different thought, a different perspective, a different stage of life that has new experiences for you. So
it's an opportunity to leave a legacy.
Absolutely, because when else can you have that opportunity
that is
to
your
carry
legacy.
on? And I think the world that we live in today, well, it's always, there's nothing new under the sun. The world we live in today is so selfish, right? Me, myself, and I, my career, my job, my free time, my disposable income, me, my. And I'm not saying that people who don't have kids are selfish. I'm not saying that. There's a variety of reasons that you should or should not have children. But I think we've got to get away from this mindset that kids are just a pain.
They're in the way.
They're not. Kids, I will tell you, our 4 kids.
I love it when you say that and that smile comes on your face. I think that's so telling.
Yes.
I think that's such an important thing. Like,
they are truly like the best humans alive in my world today. Like truly, like, yes, they're in trouble every other day. We're still having to do discipline. We're in the stage of teenagers and, you know, it's a whole new level of worry. We've got our sons having girlfriends now. And, you know, it's like a whole new world. And I know older parents now are thinking like, just wait, it's going to get worse. But I'll tell you, like, this morning, you know, I went to bed with some hard news last night, woke up kind of still bummed and in tears. And the first thing, my daughter, she's like a ray of sunshine. And she just comes in and she's like, she gets in bed with me. She comes and cuddles with me. And she said, Mom, thank you so much for taking care of me every day. I just love you so much. And then listen, next words out of her mouth.
Honey badger.
Next words out of her mouth. She said, you ought to thank God today for giving you a daughter, Mom. And I was like, I do. But listen, it reframed my mind because I was like in this frame of mind where like I hated people, I hated the world, like life sucks, get me out of here. And here this little ball of opportunity walks into my room and it's like, Mom, you have so much to be thankful for,
She's
right?
a powerhouse.
I mean, it's like the best thing. I was selfish. I was thinking selfish. But this child of mine who is not an encumbrance, right? Now, I have dreams and goals that I can't do right now. I can't travel the world and just go and blow as I want because I've got kids at home I have to think about. But it's this new opportunity every day to see the world through somebody else's eyes. And kids, I'm going to tell you, they're so pure and they're so fun. And I'm so glad we had so many of them.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's so cool too. It's an opportunity that like all of the cool things that we've experienced along this 20-year journey that we've been on together, we've got to experience it all with them too. Like our highest moments, our best moments, there were these, well, between 1 and 4 little Tullises running around right there with us. And when we want to hug each other and celebrate, we also got to hug and celebrate with them. It was an opportunity because they were there. We had an opportunity not just to have like a one-to-one sort of celebration, but we celebrated with the whole family. Listen, our thing, okay, it's chips and salsa. When we're at our highest moment, it's chips and salsa. When we're at our lowest moment, it's chips and salsa. And I'm telling you this, chips and salsa shared with many people is way better than just chips and salsa shared one-to-one. Because then you're like fighting over the bowl.
That's true.
And you're like, no, that's my ranch. Like, get your own ranch. When you got a bunch of people at the table, what happens? They bring you all kinds of salsa. And can I have a good amen for chips and salsa?
Amen, brother.
Amen.
And I'll tell you, it's funny. When our kids come home from school, we're like, kids, don't worry. We're not cooking dinner tonight. We're heading out to go get chips and salsa. They're so invested now. They're like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like good news, bad news,
right.
what's going on? Like they know. And what's so cool is, you know, our sons now are 17 and 15, and even our 12-year-old really pays attention to a lot. Like as we build our businesses and as our church is growing or, you know, changing or whatever, they've been around for so long and they've had an experience and a perspective that so many other people haven't had that they really, like, talk about an opportunity. They can speak into our lives in ways that other people can't. Like even like our staff and our team, like our sons, our older sons now will say things that we're like,
kids make you the best version of yourself.
That's what I was trying to get to.
Kids will call you out, man. Kids will call you out. Here's the it's not just a burdensome like responsibility. It's the task that I've been given as a dad, that one day the men that my sons become, I'm shaping that. And not only that, the dads that my sons become, I'm shaping that. I have an opportunity. The husbands that my sons become, I have an opportunity to shape and mold them so that hopefully whatever I do in my life, when I hit my ceiling, that becomes their floor. And those boys continue. Same with our daughter. They just keep taking it higher and higher and higher and higher. And that is an incredible opportunity that parents are given that really nobody else has that unique of an opportunity to continue and build a legacy and living a life beyond limitation.
That's right. And that's what you've got to hear today. The kids are not your limitations. They are your legacy.